Can train him. Like a dog, my girlfriend texted her friends, mocking how oblivious I was to her manipulation. When the group chat finally leaked, the mask slipped. She didn't apologize. She sobbed, accusing me of being the abusive one for stalking her privacy. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just walked out of the room, leaving her alone with her own meltdown while our friends watched in stunned silence. Feud. Hey Reddit, my ex thought she could run psychological experiments on me forever. Gaslighting, guilt trips, the whole manipulative playbook, she used them all. I kept my mouth shut, took meticulous notes, theme stakes, steak, and let her believe she was winning, but she had absolutely no clue what was coming for her. Before we get there, let me start from the beginning. You met Amber about a year and a half ago at a pretentious art gallery opening downtown. It was one of those exhausting Thursday night events where everyone drinks cheap wine and pretends to understand abstract painting. Beach. My buddy Jay dragged me along because his girlfriend was showing her photography. I was about to bail early when I heard a laugh cut through the entire room. It was loud, and she had zero shame about it. That was Amber. Feudel. Standing in front of a painting that was literally just a red square, dying of laughter with her friend. She was laughing because some guy tried to explain the deeper meaning to her like she was an idiot. And she found the absurdity hilarious. We started talking immediately. She was nursing a glass of white wine and complaining about her roommate's boyfriend who refused to move out. We exchanged numbers around 10:30 p.m. She texted me before I even reached my car. Already bored without you. The message read. It was cheesy, but it worked. I was 31, working as a medical equipment technician for several hospitals across the Austin area. Fixed heat scanners, X-ray machines, and ventilators. The pay was good, the hours were weird, and I spent a lot of time driving between facilities. Amber was 28 and worked in event planning for a major hotel chain. By week 6, she basically lived at my place. Her belongings appeared gradually. A toothbrush first, then a drawer, then half my closet. My sister, Riley, came over one morning and saw Amber's makeup covering my bathroom counter. Being kind of fast with this one, Riley said, while we grabbed coffee. It feels right though, I told her. Those were famous last words. I ignored Riley's warning. He had taken 2 years before moving in with her husband, Trevor. I thought I knew exactly what I was doing. The first few months were solid. We would cook together. Stay up late talking about everything and nothing. The shift started. Around month 5, she would ask what I was doing, and I'd say I was working late at the hospital in Round Rock. She would go quiet. Fiant. An angry silence. It was this heavy, disappointed quiet that made me feel like I had committed a crime. Even though I was literally saving lives, she'd say, "You're always at work." I worked the same schedule I always had, but she acted like it was a betrayal. I started checking in more often anyway, texting her between service calls to update her on my route. Then she started canceling plans at the very last minute. Dinner reservations. I'd be getting ready, and she'd text 30 minutes before. So tired. Rain check. No problem, I'd reply. You're not mad. Why would I be mad? Most guys would be, she'd reply. I'm not most guys. Faye. She'd go silent for an hour, then send a long curated paragraph about how much she appreciated me being understanding, contrasting me with her ex who used to flip out over small things. I'd reassure her. Tell her it was fine, and we'd move on. Around month 8, Jay noticed something during a weekend when the four of us went to dinner. Amber spent the whole meal on her phone. She wasn't being subtle about it, either. He was full and scrolling, laughing at things, and typing long responses. When the food came, she barely looked up from the screen. You okay? I asked gently. Yeah, just handling some work stuff. At 9 p.m. on a Saturday. He gave me a cold, sharp look. Since when do you monitor my phone time? I don't. I was just asking. Well, don't. Mia and Jay went silent, and the rest of dinner was awkward as hell. In the car afterward, Drew was sweet again, apologizing and saying she was just stressed about an event. I told her it was fine, and she grabbed my hand, telling me I was the most patient guy she'd ever dated. That should have felt good, It didn't. Texted me the next morning. Dude, that was weird last night. Yeah. You notice she only apologizes after you don't react. What do you mean? Watch the pattern. She pushes. You stay calm, she apologizes and gets sweet. Ehun. Repeat. I didn't respond to Jay, but I started watching. He was right. Over the next few weeks, I saw it play out again and again. She would escalate something small, just to see if she could get a rise out of me. Feed. I stayed calm, and she would flip back to being affectionate, like she was addicted to the emotional cycle. By month 9, we were at a house party with some of her work friends. Fiction. I was talking to a guy about the CT scanner id, just finished repairing when Amber walked over with her drink. Blake fixes hospital stuff, she said to the group, emphasizing maintenance guy things in a tone that made it sound like I was a janitor. I'm a medical equipment technician, I corrected her. I work on CT scanners, MRI machines, and ventilators. She laughed dismissively. Right. Sorry. He gets very specific about the title. One of her friends, Nicole, jumped in. That actually sounds really cool. Like you have to know engineering and medicine. Sort of. Yeah, it's a mix. Amber put her hand on my shoulder. Fate. Her grip a little too tight. He's also super risk-averse. Won't even ride roller coasters. Total homebody. Everyone laughed, and she kept her eyes locked on mine, waiting for a reaction. I just shrugged. Someone's got to be the responsible one. I kept talking to Nicole about the job, ignoring Amber's fading smile. Later that night in the car, she was all over me. Telling me how proud she was and how much she loved, that I didn't get insecure about stupid things. I started keeping screenshots. Not of everything, just the obvious stuff. Times shed cancel plans. Fiends. Weird responses to normal questions. Dot and those passive-aggressive comments that felt like psychological tests. I built a folder on my phone labeled work stuff so she wouldn't see it if she ever borrowed my phone. Around month 10, she started doing this thing where shed trauma dump late at night. She would tell me dark, personal secrets things Shed supposedly never told anyone, only to act like Shed never said them the next morning. Tactic to make me feel like I was the only one who truly knew her, creating a false sense of intimacy. Then came the group chat incident. We were hosting a game night. Bing. Amber had left a marker on the kitchen island while she went to the bathroom. Dinged. Then it dinged again and again. A notification popped up from a group chat titled The Inner Circle. My name appeared. Fact. I can train him like a dog. The text read. I told him I was stressed, and he literally brought me breakfast in bed without me even asking. He's so clueless. It's honestly sad. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Beams. I didn't pick up the phone. I just stood there and waited for her to return. When she walked in, she saw me looking at the table. She didn't know I'd seen the screen. Everything okay? She asked. Then, her voice dripping with that fake saccharine sweetness. Everything is perfect, I said, my voice steady. I realized then that this wasn't a relationship, it was an experiment. Fiended. She was testing how far she could push me before I snapped. She was waiting for me to be the abusive one, so she could have a story to tell her friends. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. I spent the next month acting exactly as she expected, the clueless, patient boyfriend. I let her cancel plans. I let her mock me in front of friends. I let her treat me like a subordinate. But all the while, I was gathering the final pieces of evidence. I didn't just have screenshots. I had logs of dates, times, and her manipulative patterns. One Tuesday, I went to my boss and requested a transfer to the night shift at a hospital 3 towns over. I didn't tell Amber. I started moving my valuables to my sister Riley's house. The day came for the final showdown. I didn't storm out. I didn't scream. I waited until she was having another one of her fun brunches with her friends at our place. I walked into the living room while she was in the middle of a story about how pathetic I was. Bing. Oh, hey, Blake, she said, startled. You're home early. I'm actually not home, I said, holding up my phone. I'm just picking up the last of my things. Her friends went silent. What are you talking about? She asked. Fused. Her voice rising. I pulled up the screen recording of the group chat I had finally accessed through her laptop which Shed left open the night before. I connected my phone to the smart TV in the living room. Every text, every cruel joke, every instance of her plotting against me appeared on the big screen for everyone to see. The room went dead silent. "You like training people like dogs, Amber?" I asked, my voice calm, cold, and final. "Think you've finally run out of experiments?" She started screaming, calling me a psycho, claiming it hacked her, trying to flip the narrative. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at her friends, one by one. "I've heard her talk about me for months," I said quietly. "Now you know the truth." I turned around and walked out the door. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for her to apologize. Care if she had a meltdown in front of her friends. I had the closure I needed. Justice wasn't a grand gesture of anger. It was the simple, absolute truth. And for the first time in 18 months, Buskin. The silence in my head was completely, beautifully peaceful. Have you ever felt like you were living in a house of mirrors, where everything you saw was distorted, and you were the only one who didn't know the trick? It was my life. Months. I thought I was in a relationship instead. I was a lab rat in a behavioral experiment. My name is Blake, and this is the story of how I stopped being the punchline of a sick joke. Flags didn't start as alarms, they started as whispers. Around month 10, Amber developed a habit of trauma, dumping at 1 or 2 in the morning. I'd be dead tired, knowing I had a 6 a.m. shift at Dell's Children's Hospital. Big. And Shed suddenly need to dissect her childhood or her ex-boyfriend's faults. At first, I was the supportive partner. I listened. I comforted. But then I noticed a pattern. She never did this on my days off. It was always without fail the night before a grueling shift. One Tuesday, she started sobbing at 1:45 a.m., claiming her father never believed in her dreams. I was physically shaking from exhaustion. "Think, can we talk about this tomorrow?" I whispered. "I have a major service call at 6. Her tone shifted instantly, from fragile to ice cold. "Wow, okay. I guess I know exactly where I rank in your life." "That's not it, Amber." "Fasted. I just need to sleep." "Forget it." Fine." She turned away, shutting me out for 2 full days. Then on the third day, she acted like it had never happened. Feeble. Cooking me breakfast and smiling as if she hadn't just tried to wreck my professional life. Then came the mind games. Month 11, my sister Riley invited us to game night. Amber agreed, saying it sounded like fun. Feasel. But the moment I started getting ready on Friday, the energy in our bedroom curdled. "I don't think I'm going," she muttered, staring at the floor. "You feeling okay?" I asked, confused. "I'm fine. Think. I just think you should spend time with your sister alone. You two are so close. I don't want to be an intruder." "You aren't intruding," I insisted, trying to be patient. "Riley invited both of us. Please, come." He remained silent, pouting. Finally, I snapped. "Actually, you know what? If you don't want to go, stay here. I'm going." Her expression flickered with genuine shock. "So, fixed. You're just going to leave me here alone on a Friday night. You just told me you didn't want to go." "Right. So go, I'm going alone." I grabbed my keys and left, my heart pounding in my throat. She didn't text me once. Cute. When I got home at 11, she was asleep. Sunday, the reset button was hit again. Dinner, laughter, and fake sweetness. Month 12 brought the gaslighting to a professional level. She started pushing for couples therapy. Fix our relationship, but to fix my personality. "I've been reading about attachment styles," she said, while we watched TV. "I think you're emotionally avoidant. You shut down when I try to have deep conversations." "I don't shut down," I countered, feeling the familiar tightening in my chest. "I just don't want to have deep conversations at 2 in the morning when I have to work at 6. C. That's classic defensiveness. We need a therapist." A few weeks later, she informed me Shed already picked 3 candidates, and we were starting next month. I didn't agree to that, I said, finally standing my ground. "You've been thinking about it for 3 weeks." "Think. Just taking the initiative." "I thought about it," I said, my voice steady, and the answer is no. The silence in the room was suffocating. She stood up, walked out, and didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. 13. The final breaking point approached. It was Riley's birthday dinner and event I wouldn't miss for the world. At 3 in the afternoon, Amber texted, not feeling great. You go without me. I went, feeling a pang of guilt. When I got home that night, the house was quiet. I walked into the living room and found Amber on the couch. She looked perfectly healthy. Fingsham. There was a glass of wine on the coffee table and empty takeout containers from that high-end Thai place she loved. Thought you weren't feeling well, I said, keeping my voice neutral. I felt better, she said, not even looking up. After I left. Don't start with me, Blake. I didn't argue. I just walked to the bedroom and pulled out my phone. I started a note. Riley's birthday. Claimed sick. Ordered takeout. I began tracking the money too. Thing realized. I'd spent over $11,000 on her in a year. I stopped paying for everything. The next time we went grocery shopping, I put my items on the belt and left hers in the cart. You forgot my things, she said. The cashier. Did I? Very funny. Go back and get them. I'm only buying my food from now on, I said, my voice cold. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Are you serious? I am. Incredibly childish. No, I replied. This is fair. She didn't speak to me for 4 days. Then, month 15 arrived, and with it, the truth. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Mia, a mutual acquaintance. Blake, I need to show you something. It was a series of screenshots from a group chat between Amber and her closest friends. My skin went cold as I read the words. Canceling on Blake tonight to see what he does. Theme. Bet he apologizes by morning. Ignored his text for 6 hours today. He's probably spiraling, running another test tonight. Told him my ex texted me. Watching him try to stay calm is hilarious. He's too easy. Pushes back on anything. It's like training a dog. I felt like I was going to be sick. The messages went back months. Everything. The lat night trauma dumping. The game night sabotage. Therapy demands it. Was all for sport. I called Mia immediately. Where did you get these? Jade sent them to me, Mia explained. She didn't want Amber knowing it was her, but she couldn't watch this anymore. You know, Time. Amber told them yesterday she was planning to meet up with her ex, Owen, and Jade decided you'd suffered enough. I didn't say a word. I hung up. I walked into the living room where Amber was lounging, scrolling through her phone, probably planning her next test. She looked up, giving me that practiced, innocent smile. Hey, babe, how was your day? I stood there for a long moment, looking at the person I had tried so hard to love, the person who had turned my life into a sick experiment. It was very enlightening, I said. She paused, sensing the shift in my posture. What is that supposed to mean? I didn't scream. I didn't even raise my voice. I just took a screenshot of her own group, chat the one where she talked about training a dog and sent it to her phone. I think you should leave, I said. Her face went pale. Blake, wait. It's not. It's all right here, Amber. Feigned. The tests, the games, the training. I walked to the front door and opened it. I'm not a dog, and you're no longer a resident of this house. She tried to laugh it off, to start the gaslighting one last time. You're being so dramatic. It's just a joke with friends. Get out, she realized, for the first time, that the dog bite had finally bitten back. She packed her things in silence while I stood by the door, watching her go. When the door finally clicked shut, the silence in the house didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like freedom. I didn't need therapy. I didn't need to explain myself. I just needed to breathe. First time in 15 months, I could. Hey, Reddit, I need to get this off my chest. We had been together for 8 years. 8 years is a long time to build a life, to trust someone. Future. To believe that your future is etched in stone. Yesterday, Amber dropped a bomb that shattered that glass house. She mentioned quite casually that she was considering meeting up with Owen again. Her ex, Jade, who had been my friend for years, reached out to me with the truth. She sent me screenshots, the kind that make your stomach drop and your blood turn to ice. I sat there on my couch, staring at my phone as the world around me went quiet. There was no explosion of anger. There was no sharp stabbing pain of heartbreak. I felt nothing. I felt incredibly calm. Thanks for telling me, Jade, I said. Finged. My voice sounding like it belonged to someone else. What are you going to do? She asked, her voice tight with worry. I don't know yet, I replied. I hung up and scrolled through those screenshots again, saved every single one of them to my work folder. Then I created a new subfolder and labeled it Evidence. I didn't confront Amber that night. I didn't change my behavior by even a fraction. I just watched. Phew. She came home around 8 p.m. She kissed my cheek, asked about my day, and acted as if everything was perfectly normal. I made dinner. We watched a show together. I tucked myself into bed, Phew lying beside her while she had no idea that her secret had been unmasked. Over the next 2 weeks, I conducted an experiment. I started saying no to the small things. Function. The plans I would have usually agreed to without a second thought. The favors she asked for on a whim. Can you pick up my dry cleaning? She'd ask. I can't'd say. I've got a service call in that area, but I won't have the time. Fuse 'em. But you're already going to be there, she countered. I still won't have the time, I replied flatly. She would go quiet, her brow furrowing in confusion. Then, later, she would be extra sweet, prominent, trying to reset whatever she sensed was wrong. I kept my responses short, minimalist, own-word answers, no explanations. I didn't try to comfort her or make her feel better when she seemed uneasy. Texts began to grow longer, riddled with anxious questions. You seem distant. Did I do something wrong? Are we okay? I would wait 3 or 4 hours just to hit send on a towered reply. We're fine. By the third week, he was spiraling. She followed me around our apartment, pestering me about whether I was angry, trying to force conversations about our future, and suggesting spontaneous trips to Colorado. I agreed to nothing, committed to nothing. I gave her absolutely nothing. She hated it. I realized then that I wasn't her boyfriend anymore. I was a placeholder, a practice dummy. I was just an object for her to run tests on while she figured out what she actually wanted for her next chapter. The 16th month rolled around, and Amber decided to make a massive production out of my birthday. He made a huge deal about it. She booked reservations at that incredibly expensive, high-end steakhouse downtown. She told me to invite anyone I wanted and insisted that she would handle every single detail. Phew. On the day of my birthday, I took the day off work. I woke up around 9:10 a.m., made a pot of coffee, and just waited. She didn't wake up until noon. She wandered out of the bedroom in her pajamas, went straight to her phone, then didn't even acknowledge my presence. Morning, I said. She mumbled. That was the extent of our interaction. I finally asked what time our reservation was set for. Oh, she said, finally looking up. Can we do tomorrow instead? I felt a cold sensation wash over me. My birthday is today, Amber. I know. She rushed to explain, but this is really important. Jade is having a crisis. She's upset about something with her boyfriend, and she needs me right now. You made a massive deal about tonight, I said. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. I promise, she insisted. She was out the door by 3 p.m. I sat in the silence of the apartment for a long time. Then I called Jay. You busy? Nah. What's up? Want to grab some food? We went to a dive bar near the campus, settling for burgers and beer. I told him everything. Man, rough, he said, shaking his head. It's fine. I told him, it's not fine, dude. It's your birthday. Honestly, I'm good. He looked at me, his eyes searching, trying to decipher the shift in my demeanor. Being weird lately. Calm, but weird. Just paying attention. To what? Everything. I showed him the screenshots from the group chat. I even showed him the one from earlier that day, where Jade mentioned she was at work all evening. Amber had used her as a convenient cover. Jay read through them slowly, his expression shifting from confusion to cold, hard realization. How long have you known about this? 3 weeks. And you haven't said a word. What's there to say? She told me exactly who she is through her actions. I'm just deciding how to handle it. You're freakishly calm about this, Jay remarked. Things because I already know how this ends. Yeah? How? She's gone. I'm just figuring out the timing. He nodded slowly, respecting the resolve in my voice. Need help when you finally pull the plug. Probably I'll let you know. Finished our food, drank a couple more beers, and talked about normal things work. Sports, Riley's new job at the museum. I got home around 9. Amber wasn't back yet. I went to bed. She woke me up at 1:15 a.m. She was stumbling drunk, reeking of tequila, and her mascara was smudged down to her chin.
Happy birthday!
Baby, she slurred. Her words thick. Didn't forget! She leaned in to kiss me, but I turned my head away. You seem mad, she whispered. I'm tired. Going back to sleep. She grew instantly agitated. She started crying, claiming that I didn't appreciate her. She insisted that she was just trying to be a good friend. That I was being cold and heartless. I didn't respond. I just rolled over and faced the wall. She cried until she passed out. The next morning, she didn't remember most of the night.
He acted like everything was perfectly fine.
She made me breakfast and asked if we could do dinner that night to celebrate. I'm busy tonight, I said. Doing what? Stuff. Blake, come on, don't be like this. Another time.
Faith it, Amber.
Her face went hard, her eyes flashing with sudden irritation. Fine, whatever. She stormed out of the house, clearly furious. I went to the bank that afternoon. I opened a new account,
Transferred every cent of my money.
except for what I needed for the bills. Changed my direct deposit, and ensured that my name was the only one with access to anything. Then, I called my landlord, Mr. Will.
Had a great relationship for 6 years.
Hey, I need a favor. What's up, Blake? I need the locks changed today if possible. I'll pay extra. Everything okay? It will be. I just need it done. Well, he hesitated.
Benzin.
Shez's not on the lease, so you should be clear legally, but not a lawyer. If Shez's been living there a while, you might want to make sure you're handling it by the book.
Dot.
I understand. Can you still change the locks? Yeah.
Fill someone there by 5. I appreciate it.
I hung up and did a quick search on tenant rights. She could potentially claim she lived there, but I had her things ready to go. I had Riley coming over as a witness. Then I was fully prepared to deal with the consequences if she tried to make this a legal battle. I wanted this to be final, clean, documented. The locksmith showed up at 4:45 p.m., a guy named Frank. He had the job done in 30 minutes. New deadbolt, new handle, 3 new keys. While he worked, I started pulling Amber's belongings out of my closet. I wasn't packing them into boxes yet. I was just separating them.
Phone buzzed.
A text from Amber. Having drinks with work people tonight. Don't wait up. That was it. I kept pulling her things out. I created a massive pile in the corner of the bedroom. Her dresses, her shoes.
Front. Mofterets.
I was ready. Shed left around. I was ready to take my life back. Justice doesn't always come with a gavel. Sometimes it comes with a new set of keys. Hey, Reddit.
Pinged.
Grab a seat and maybe pour yourself a drink. This is a story about the night. The silence in my apartment became the loudest thing it ever heard. My phone vibrated against the bedside table, shattering the stillness of the room.
Text from Amber.
Having drinks with the work crew tonight. Don't wait up. That was it. No heart emoji, no miss you, just a cold instruction. I stared at the screen for a long time.
Fees.
The glow illuminating the growing emptiness in my chest. I began pulling her belongings out of the closet. One by one, I built a mountain of her existence in the corner of our bedroom. Her flowy dresses, her expensive heels,
Protsend.
her ridiculous collection of decorative pillows that served no purpose other than to be thrown on the floor.
Around some.
I dialed Riley. I kept my voice steady, asking if she could come over the next morning with a fleet of moving boxes. I didn't give her the details, just told her. It was about Amber. She agreed immediately, promising to be at my doorstep by 8. After I hung up,
Scanned the apartment.
clearly distinguishing what was mine and what was merely occupying space. I went to bed, and surprisingly, I slept like a stone. I woke up at 3:45 in the morning. I reached across the bed, expecting the weight of her, but my hand met only cold, empty sheets. I grabbed my phone, hoping for a just got home text. Nothing. I opened the location sharing app we had set up months ago,
Phasey
back when Shed insisted on it, because a friend had gotten stranded downtown. The blue dot loaded on the map. It sat perfectly still on Westlake Drive. It had last updated at 3:32 in the morning. My stomach dropped,
Fens.
but my head stayed perfectly clear. I knew that address better than I knew my own current address. It was Owen's place, her ex. I watched that little blue dot for 15 minutes. It didn't move an inch.
Figs.
I took a screenshot, saved it to a folder labeled evidence, and deleted the app. I went back to sleep, the decision already carved in stone. Riley arrived at 8 with her truck packed with cardboard boxes.
Fendant.
She took one look at my face and the pile in the bedroom, and she didn't need to ask a single question. I showed her the screenshot from the night before, proof that Amber had been at Owen's since the early hours of the morning.
Fienton.
Riley just nodded, offered a small, sad apology, and we got to work. We packed with the efficiency of a military operation. Clothes, shoes, bathroom products, half-finished books, dozens of candles.
Few.
We taped boxes shut and labeled them with surgical precision. By noon, 31 boxes were stacked in the living room, a graveyard of our relationship. Riley paused, looking at me with concern,
He asked.
if I was truly going through with it. I told her yes, and when she offered to stay, I declined. I needed to finish this alone. Before she left, she gave me a fierce hug and told me she was proud of me.
Few.
Once the door clicked shut, I sat on the couch and waited for the inevitable. I made coffee. Checked my phone still, nothing from Amber. She walked in at 20 in the afternoon.
Fingted.
She was wearing the exact same clothes from yesterday. Her hair was a bird's nest, and she was carrying her heels in her hand, walking in her stockings. She saw the tower of boxes and froze. "What is this?" she whispered.
Stuff.
I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. "Blake, what on earth are you doing?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Where were you last night?" I watched the machinery of her face change. Confusion, then realization.
The inevitable pivot to defense.
"I told you. Work drinks. Try again." "Excuse me." I pulled out my phone and held it up, displaying the screenshot of her location at Owen's apartment. "You were at Owen's place all night."
Few.
It was still updating at 3:32 in the morning, and you just strolled in at 2:20, wearing yesterday's clothes. The color drained from her face, leaving her ghost white. Then, the blood rushed back in a flash of red.
Frill.
She actually laughed, a sharp, jagged sound. "Oh, wow. So now you want to play detective." I placed my phone on the coffee table and looked at her for 3 heavy seconds. "Not anymore." "What is that supposed to mean?"
It means I don't care where you were. I don't care. Why?
"I just need you to take your boxes and get out. You're insane. Nothing even happened." "I'm done, Amber." She marched toward the door,
Ease.
clearly expecting me to beg her to stay or to argue. She jammed her key into the lock. It wouldn't turn. She tried again, frantic. Nothing. She turned to stare at me, her eyes wide. "You changed the locks."
My apartment.
"My name is on the lease, too." "Actually, it isn't. You never wanted to be on it, remember? You said it felt too permanent." Her eyes welled up with tears. "Blake, please, just let me explain." "No."
Music. Just listen. Take your boxes.
"Or they're going to the curb." She pulled out her phone with trembling hands and called Jade. Her voice cracked as she explained the situation, painting herself as the victim of my sudden madness.
Fusion.
Jade arrived 45 minutes later. She looked at the boxes, looked at me, and started loading the truck without a single word. Amber kept trying to corner me between trips. "Can we at least talk about this tomorrow?" "No."
You are being so cruel.
"I'm being clear. I love you. If that were true, you wouldn't have spent the night at Owen's." When the door finally closed, the apartment felt massive and deafeningly quiet. I sat there for an hour,
Philly.
the silence washing over me like a healing balm. Then, I got up and took every single photo of us off the wall. I put them in a trash bag, stripped the bed, and put on the fresh sheets I'd bought the week before. Threw the old ones away, deleted her digital footprint, and moved the furniture around so the couch faced a different direction. I made the space mine again. Riley called around 5. "How did it go?"
Shiz gone.
"Yeah, actually, yeah, that's probably shock." "It's not shock, Riley. It's relief." The first week after the breakup, Amber texted me 63 times. "Please, let me explain. You're being so unfair."
Means.
Absolutely nothing to me.
Why?
"Won't you answer me?" The messages oscillated between desperate apologies and vicious anger. I responded exactly once on day 4. Do not contact me again. She didn't stop.
Phil.
On day 8, Owen called. Blake, listen, nothing happened. She showed up drunk, crying about you. She passed out on my couch. If that's true, why didn't she just tell me that? There was a long silence on the other end.
Thing right.
I said. Because even if it is the truth, she lied instead. She's her own problem now. I hung up and blocked his number. On day 10, she showed up at my door at 11 at night.
Be happed.
She hammered on the wood for 5 minutes. Straight. I didn't answer. I called the non-emergency line and reported someone attempting to force entry. They gave me an incident number, and I wrote it down.
He vanished.
Before the police arrived. On day 12, I bought a Ring doorbell camera. She came back that night at 11:45. The camera caught everything they're knocking, her sobbing, her rage. He came back again 2 nights later at 1:30 in the morning. I saved every single clip, complete with dates and times. Jay came over on day 15. Man, you look like hell. Thanks.
Is she still blowing up your phone?
I showed him the count. 87 messages, 6 voicemails, and 4 recorded visits. You need a restraining order, bro. I'm just documenting everything first. By week 4,
Thing.
I started hearing whispers through mutual friends. I was the controlling one. I was the paranoid one who tracked her every move. I was the monster who threw her out without warning.
From work, pulled me aside one afternoon.
I heard something really weird about you, Blake. Oh yeah, they say you've been unstable since the breakup. That you've been harassing your ex.
Eat.
I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I showed her the blocked call log, the text count, and the clear, high-definition Ring footage of Amber at my door at 1 a.m. Lisa's jaw dropped. Jesus. This is all from her.
Phew.
I looked at the screen, then at the life I had successfully reclaimed. Yeah, I said, a small, genuine smile finally reaching my eyes. It is. They say that when you finally set a boundary,
Thing.
the people who benefited from your lack of one will treat it like an act of war. I spent 18 months being the perfect boyfriend to someone who was essentially performing a social experiment on my life. You thought love was about patience. But when I finally decided to walk away, I didn't just lose a partner. I realized I had been living in a curated nightmare. Today I'm going to tell you how I reclaimed my sanity.
Tables turned.
And why sometimes the most satisfying form of revenge is simply standing your ground while they watch their own house of cards collapse. My office was quiet when HR sat me down.
Patient.
The look on my manager Karen's face was one of genuine concern. She placed a file on the table. Blake, we need to talk. There are rumors circulating about your mental health.
People are saying, you've been harassing your ex-girlfriend.
That you're unstable. I didn't panic. I didn't get defensive. I simply pulled out my phone. I opened the folder labeled evidence.
Equal bet.
I showed her the blocked call log, hundreds of missed attempts. I showed her the text messages where I had explicitly asked for space. Finally, I played the Ring doorbell footage from my apartment. It showed Amber, my ex, pounding on my door at 3 a.m., screaming insults, then immediately pulling out her phone to send a text. I looked Karen in the eye. Does this look like the behavior of someone who is harassing their ex? The air left the room. This is gaslighting, Karen whispered. I know, I replied. And I need this on record, not just for my job, but for my life. Week 5. I was doing maintenance on the imaging equipment at the hospital in Georgetown.
Please, my pager buzzed.
It was security. Blake, we have a situation. A woman named Amber is at the front desk. She's causing a scene, claiming she's your girlfriend, and that there's a medical emergency. My blood went cold.
You not have a girlfriend,
I said, my voice dangerously calm. Tell her I am unavailable. If she doesn't leave immediately, escort her out, and if she resists, call the police. She left minutes later, but the damage was done.
Felt a strange sense of relief
When I saw the security report arrive in my inbox. It wasn't just a breakup anymore. It was a war of attrition. But she was playing checkers, and I was playing chess.
thing.
I made sure every security guard in the entire hospital system had her photo. I was building a wall. Brick by brick, week 9. I thought I had reached a stalemate. Then I saw her mother, Helen.
Waiting for me at the grocery store.
She was standing in the cereal aisle, looking like she'd been crying for days. Blake, we need to talk. Amber is devastated. She made one mistake, but she loves you.
Didn't even stop walking.
One mistake, she spent months manipulating me. She lied about where she was. She lied about who she was, and then she turned my life into a circus. You're being cruel, she hissed.
Bruh, I just kept pushing my cart. Closure.
Isn't something I owe you, Helen. And it's definitely not something I owe her. The true breaking point came 3 days later. Helen showed up at my apartment with Amber's Aunt Claire.
Weren't there for an apology.
They wanted in. We need to check her things, Claire demanded, stepping into my space. Everything she owned was boxed up and given to her friend Jade weeks ago, I said, my hand hovering over my phone. We don't believe you. We want to look for ourselves. When I refused, the mask slipped. The grieving mother turned aggressive. You're a monster, Helen spat. I'm a man who is finished, I said.
Ease up.
I started dialing 911 right in front of them. They left before the dispatcher even answered. Week 14. I decided to go to a rooftop party. I wasn't going to hide. I was at the bar when I saw her, Amber,
He was with Owen.
the guy she'd been seeing behind my back. She looked at me, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of hope in her IC, the hope that I would still be the guy she could manipulate. She walked over.
Ewan trailing like a lost puppy.
Blake, hi. This isn't what it looks like. I looked right through her. Amber, I don't think about you at all. The silence that followed was heavy like the air before a thunderstorm.
Face went pale, then red.
She realized then that her power over me was officially irrevocably dead. 20 minutes later, one of her friends, Rachel, tried to start a scene. She started yelling about how I was a controlling, abusive, heartless monster. The crowd turned. Then Jade walked up. Jadeth, one friend who had seen the truth. Rachel. Stop, Jade said, her voice cutting through the noise.
Don't fit.
He didn't track her. She insisted they share locations. Then she cheated. He didn't kick her out. Alf packed her life into 31 boxes and did it with grace. I was the one who helped him move the boxes.
Use.
Dot. Let's talk about the group chat where she called training him a game. Dot. Rachel went quiet. The truth, like a cold glass of water, had finally been poured over their heads. Dot. Week 16.
Phone buzzed.
It was Claire the aunt. Blake, Amber, and Owen broke up. It's bad. She's threatening to hurt herself. I paused. I remembered the girl. I thought I knew. But I also remembered the girl who tried to ruin my career, harass my coworkers, and gaslight me into insanity. Claire, I said, my voice steady. If she is a danger to herself, call 911. That is what professionals are for.
Thanks.
I hung up. I didn't block the number immediately. I just watched the phone go dark, placed it on the table, and walked to the kitchen to make a cup of coffee. The silence in my apartment wasn't lonely anymore. It was peace.
First time in a long time, it was all mine.
Don't ever let someone else's drama define your worth. If you're currently in the middle of a storm, remember, you don't have to stay in it to prove you're strong.
Good.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is just leave the room. If you found this story helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. You are not alone. And you are definitely worth more than the chaos they try to throw at you. Phone screen flickered in the dim light of the living room, casting a ghostly glow over my face. It was an unknown number, but I already knew who it was. Blake, listen. Amber and Owen broke up. It's bad, okay. Voice on the other end was frantic, trembling Helen. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Okay? Is that all you have to say? I don't know what you expect from me, Helen. She's telling everyone she's going to end it.
Shez talking about hurting herself.
I felt a cold shiver, not of fear but of exhaustion. Then call 911 Helen. I'm not trained for a crisis, and I'm certainly not her caretaker anymore. You're so cold, Blake. You're heartless.
Fim.
Just realistic. If Shez in genuine danger, call the authorities. Fim done being the protagonist in her tragedy. I hung up. I didn't hesitate. I tapped the screen and blocked the number.
False.
The room fell back into a heavy, suffocating silence. 18 weeks passed. Life became a series of quiet, deliberate movements. Then the phone buzzed again. This time, it was Jade. Blake, heads up, she said,
Being
her voice tight.
dot.
Amber and Owen officially split 3 days ago. I leaned against the wall, listening. He caught Heron the middle of the night, texting someone else. She's been blowing up my phone,
Figs.
begging me to reach out to you. And I told her no. But I thought you should notice she's desperate. She's coming for you. Blake, thanks for the warning, Jade. Also, I'm sorry for the group chat.
Could have told you sooner.
You told me when it mattered, Jade.
That's enough.
I hung up, staring at the ceiling. She thought I was handling it well. But the truth was, I wasn't handling anything.
Simply deleting.
By month 5, the air in the apartment felt different, crisper, cleaner. I'd started running at dawn, 4 miles of pavement pounding away the lingering toxicity in my blood.
Use
The weight I didn't realize I was carrying. I picked up my guitar again, the calluses on my fingertips forming a barrier between me and the past. I went on dates, but they were Shadow's one woman obsessed with her ex.
sweet but hollow.
The furniture had been replaced. The coffee table where she used to drop her keys, the couch where she'd sit and weave her narratives it was all gone. Riley came over one Saturday with a bag of Thai food. He looked around the room, impressed. You seem light, he noted. I am. Any regrets? Not one. He looked at me, a question hanging in the air.
Ever going to set that the record straight?
Shez out there painting you as the villain, Blake. Every single day. I had thought about it. For months, the injustice had burned like acid in my chest. I've been thinking about it,
Then
I admitted. The next day, I didn't reach out to a lawyer. I opened a Google Doc. I didn't write an opinion piece. I didn't write an apology. I just started dumping the truth, evidence.
thing.
Screenshots of the group chat where she plotted her experiments on my mental state. GPS location logs that proved she was miles away from where she claimed to be. Ring doorbell footage showing her antics.
Empty and undeniable.
The police incident reports. The internal HR documentation regarding her professional harassment. I titled the document, Timeline. I sent the link to 4 people, Riley, Jay, Mia, and Jade.
Best.
My note to them was simple. Share if you think the truth needs to exist. Don't if you're uncomfortable. I'm just putting it out there. Within 48 hours, the world shifted on its axis. It didn't explode, it dissolved.
Sent it to our mutual friends.
Jay dropped it into a chat with our college circle. For a week, my phone was a graveyard. Then the tremors started. Mia texted. 3 of her closest friends just blocked her.
They saw the screenshots. Blake, they're done. Day 4.
Jay called, laughing with a bitter edge. I ran into Owen at the gym. He's seen the document. He looked like he'd been hit by a truck. They're over, man. Completely.
Fix.
Jade called. Blake, she knows. She's losing her mind. She's screaming on the phone about how I'm ruining her life. I didn't ruin anything, Jade, I said calmly. I just removed the walls she built to hide her lies.
Fired Blake.
The hotel found out. Someone sent the documentation to the corporate office. I sat in the silence of my kitchen. I expected to feel a rush of victory. Instead, I felt nothing. Just a quiet.
Peace. Tot month 6.
Jade sent one final message. She's moving to Dallas. Her mom found her a job. She's leaving next week. Is that it? I whispered to the empty room. That's it.
One more thing.
Jade added.
She asked if you'd be willing to talk before she leaves.
No, I told her. That's what you'd say. That night, I sat down at my computer. I opened the Google Doc. I hit delete. I cleared the trash.
Phew.
I went into my files and purged every single screenshot, every video, every piece of evidence. I deleted her contact. I deleted her mother's number. I deleted the group chat history.
Yeah. Emptied the cloud.
The folders,
Peapod.
the cache, the evidence was gone from my hands, but the truth remained in the world, and that was enough. The day before she was scheduled to drive to Dallas, my phone buzzed. Blake, it's me. I know you won't talk to me.
Thinks, but I need to say this. I'm.
Sorry for the lying, for the manipulation. You were the best thing I ever had, and I tore it apart because I was terrified of how good you were. I'm leaving tomorrow.
I hope you find someone who deserves you.
I read it twice. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I locked the phone and set it on the coffee table. I didn't reply. I didn't block it yet. I just left it there.
Fenged right.
A testament to a ghost I was no longer haunted by. I went to bed, and for the first time in years, I slept through the entire night. The next morning, the sun hit the balcony with a brilliance that felt like a fresh start.
Vect.
My finette two more messages, both pleas for a response.
I deleted the thread.
I went for a run, 4.2 miles, my lungs expanding with the crisp, clean air of a life that finally belonged entirely to me.
Drove to the hospital in Round Rock.
The service call for the X-ray machine simple and rhythmic. As I calibrated the sensor array, the radiology tech looked over at me, working this weekend. Maybe, I smiled, tightening a bolt.
Probably just some quiet time.
Keeping things simple. I finished the job, closed the machine, and walked out into the Texas heat. I checked my phone one last time before getting into the truck. Nothing. No ghosts.
Fuses.
No drama. Just the hum of the engine and the road ahead. I put the truck in drive, looked at the horizons, and kept moving. For the first time in my life, the future didn't look like a threat. It looked like a blank page.
Finally ready.
To write the next chapter. They say that the loudest sound in a marriage isn't the screaming or the slamming doors.
Feng, it's a silence.
When you finally realize you've been living with a ghost of a person who never actually loved you. I spent years trying to fix a broken machine, never realizing the machine was designed to keep me trapped.
Fiction.
Until one Tuesday, the silence finally started to sound like freedom. I spent my days fixing medical imaging equipment in hospitals across Texas. My life was a sequence of diagnostic reports, calibrated scanners.
Friend, and the hum of X-ray machines.
That afternoon, I was at the hospital in Round Rock, wrapping up a routine service call. I remember chatting with the radiology tech about his weekend plans at Schlitterbahn. It felt normal.
Faint, almost painfully mundane.
But that's how betrayal operates, doesn't it? It hides in the mundane, right between the lines of a conversation about water slides and shift schedules. I walked out to my truck.
Texas. Sun. Hitting my face like a physical weight.
I checked my phone, a reflex, really. There was one new text from an unknown number. I guess this is goodbye then. I stared at the screen.
Thumb hovering over the glass. 5 seconds.
That was all the time it took for the last 3 years of my life to shatter. I didn't reply, I didn't call. I simply hit block, tossed the phone onto the passenger seat,
and drove.
The drive to Georgetown was supposed to be the start of my healing. I fixed a CT scanner, finished my paperwork, and logged out by 4:30. Driving home, the silence in the truck felt different than it did that morning.
East.
Empty anymore. It was heavy with the weight of Amber. Amber, who promised me forever while she was busy building a life with Owen behind my back. Amber, who used gaslighting like a weapon,
First.
making me feel crazy for questioning the late nights and the business trips to Dallas. When I got home, I put my keys on the counter. I grabbed a cold beer and stepped out onto the balcony. The sun was dipping below the horizon,
Finged.
painting the sky in colors that felt mocking in their beauty. I sat there, watching the light fade, and for the first time, I didn't reach for my phone to see if she had messaged. I didn't care where she was.
They didn't care who she was with.
I realized then that she hadn't just cheated on me. She had been renting some space in my head that I was now ready to reclaim. After dinner, I picked up my guitar. I played for an hour,
Finged.
the chords vibrating through my chest, chasing away the static of her voice. When I finally went to bed, I checked my phone one last time. Work emails. A message from Jay about the weekend. Nothing from her.
No location pings.
No fake apologies. No passive-aggressive screenshots. I lay down on those fresh, clean sheets, and for the first time in months, I didn't reach across the bed. I wasn't looking for her. I was finally,
Truly alone.
and it was the best sleep I had experienced in years. Wednesday morning started at 6:15. Coffee, a run, and back to the hospital grid. I was driving to a site in Westlake.
Loud enough to drown out any lingering thoughts of the past.
Then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but this time the caller ID showed a location. Georgetown Hospital, I answered.
expecting a technician needing a manual.
It's Jade, a voice whispered, shaky and terrified.
Jade.
Amber's former best friend, the one who Amber told me had moved to Colorado months ago. "I'm in the emergency room," she said,
Perfect.
her voice cracking. "Amber didn't move away, and she didn't just break up with you." My heart stopped. "She's been keeping a Google Doc, a timeline of everything she stole from you.
Phew.
And she's trying to pin her medical debt on your social security number." The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was legal. It was calculated. It was cold-blooded. I didn't drive to the next service call.
To the hospital.
I found Jade in a holding room, looking pale, her arm bandaged. She handed me a printed stack of paper screenshots, account numbers,
Evil.
and a confession she had forced Amber to write before the fight that sent her to the ear. Amber hadn't just been cheating. She had been setting me up to take the fall for a massive identity fraud scheme.
Inga for Nejin.
I realized then that my normal life had been a surveillance operation. I walked to the front desk, found the administrator, and handed over the folder. I didn't yell. I didn't scream.
Feud.
I just watched as the staff contacted legal and the authorities. When Amber walked into the lobby 20 minutes later, expecting to meet someone else, she froze. The look on her face wasn't one of guilt. It was one of pure,
Using.
unadulterated fury, the realization that she had been outplayed by the person she thought was too passive to notice. Police took her statement, and I walked out of that hospital with my head held high. I had the evidence,
Theory. I had the truth.
and more importantly, I had my future back. I drove home, parked the truck, and looked at the house. It didn't look like a prison anymore. It looked like a home. I walked inside, turned off my phone.
For the first time in my life, I didn't just move on.
I started over. If you've ever felt like the person you love is holding a mirror that shows you a version of yourself you don't recognize, know this: you are not crazy.
And you are not alone.
Guys, we are so close to hitting 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you aren't subscribed yet, please consider hitting that button. Helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories and reclaim their own peace. Thank you for being part of this journey, and thanks for making this dream come true. Until next time, keep your head up
You deserve better.
than the silence of a lie.